what's going on? Coach Lucas back here with
Coach Kelsey.
And today's Coach's Corner is all about the hip thrust. And we've done a bunch of hip thrusts before. Like you have.
Yeah.
You've done hundreds. I was coaching, it was great. But today, you know what we want to do is just like, there's different hip thrust variations and form on it. So like whether it's double leg or single leg, actually the form changes quite a bit. And I wanted to touch on, I'm sure you get this too quite a bit, where people say, I do it this way, but I just don't feel my glutes as much, right? And it may be something like I feel my quads too much. It might be I feel my low back, right? So we're gonna kind of go through this. We're gonna go through form for double-legged hip thrust, single-legged hip thrust, and some variations of change for the two-leg hip thrust if you don't feel it, okay? So that's what we're gonna rock and roll with. So the first variation we're gonna go is just the regular double-legged hip thrust. Regardless if you're doing it on the glute drive, the bench, we're gonna do it on the bench, or if you have like the actual soreness hip thrust, regardless, like this is the form for it for most people. So for most people, this is what's gonna work, okay? So Kelsey's gonna set up, like I said, I prefer thicker pads on this, especially if you start going heavier. They tend to be a little more helpful. Now, on this, here's the thing, everybody has different anatomy, right? So while for some people, you know, people say like, hey, set it up like this. Everybody has different anatomy, and we gotta pay attention to this a little bit, okay? But the main thing is like, as Kelsey sets this up, she's gonna bring her feet in, and the first coaching cue is this, that she's gonna look forward, like when she's at the bottom of this position, and she's still gonna look forward when she's at the top of this position. And what she's trying to do, and this is sometimes counterintuitive to, you know, what you get taught for the deadlift or squat or things like that, is she's gonna try to essentially shorten her rib cage, or should I say shorten her spine, right? She's gonna shorten her spine at the top, and she's still looking forward. So it actually looks like from the side, this is gonna be her posture. Now, that's not what you wanna promote in a deadlift or a squat, but because the weight is on her hips, when she tucks her pelvis under, she's gonna squeeze her butt more and basically not have this load putting her into this position, right? So that's the two-legged hip thrust, right? So let's, and the thing is, at the top, I highly recommend that you always go for a squeeze, meaning like 1001, and not just snap through and come back down, right? We wanna have that tension. So bottom position, Kelsey's looking forward. Okay, top position, she's gonna drive up, shorten her spine. Notice, she's still looking forward, squeezing 1001. Coming back down, rib cage comes down with her, but then coming back up. Notice how her chest stops a little bit shorter, but her hips finish the movement. Let's go two more before she like smacks me because doing long pauses. Bam, okay? And back down, let's do one more. Shorten that. So shorten her spine here, looking forward, and break, and breathe. Nice. And so you can, this is where, like I said, you don't have to have a crazy load. When you do those pauses, 1001, 1002, squeeze as hard as you possibly can, is gonna really help out. Now for you, you feel glutes on that, right?
Yeah.
Perfectly fine, okay? And most people will, okay? Now, I'm gonna take the bar away a little bit, just so that we don't just completely, I would say, annihilate you before we go to different variations. Okay, so if somebody goes like, I don't feel my glutes, here's another variation that can work really well. So you're gonna sit up that same position, but now you're gonna go feet a lot wider and toes out. Yeah, even more so. Right? So here, good. Now in this stance, you're not gonna look forward. You're gonna go all the way down, drive up, and look up to the ceiling. Bam, there we go. So imagine also if she has a bar on her hips, same thing. She's gonna drive through and look up. Still keep that chin packed, right? But she's looking up, she's got a nice straight spine. So depending on, like I said, hip anatomy, sometimes this will work a lot better, okay? So once again, you gotta play around with it. It's hard for me to say like, if this is gonna work for everybody. Now, another thing that you'll see a lot of is if people say, I feel my quads like crazy, I don't even feel my glutes. Or it's like 70-30 quads to butt, right? This is, now somebody has really long femurs. So if you come and set up real here, and you have pretty long femurs here. Yeah. For instance, you'll see, bring the feet back a little bit. So they'll hip thrust and they'll have that positive shin angle, see that? So this is gonna usually kind of like work the quads a little bit more. So for people that have long femurs, I actually like to bring the feet out further to where there's actually a little bit of a negative shin angle. Not too much, because if Kelsey goes out to here, she's gonna be feeling a lot of hamstrings, like way too much, right? But if you come in close and you got a little, not vertical, but like a little bit like negative shin angle, now doing that and then tucking will actually kind of bring that tension back to the glutes, right?
Head positioning on this one?
Head positioning still forward, right? And on top of that, like if that doesn't do it, or put it this way, sometimes you go like from 70-30 to 50-50, and it's like, okay, cool, we're getting to a better place. Then we might go, all right, listen, let's put the band around the knees and then do 1,001, 1,002 holds. Because this is more about, like, even though I like going heavy on this, it's more about feel, right? And that's why the long like rest pause at the top are very, very beneficial. But those are your 3 different ways that you can modify the regular 2-legged hip thrust. Now, on the single leg hip thrust, and we're gonna talk B stance too, and we're not gonna load you up for the single leg. By the way, single leg is way harder. So if I can hip thrust, you know, whatever, 500-600 pounds, like I can't do half of that with the single leg. Because there's a rotational component, right? I'm loading the bar, it's trying to pull me, it's gonna be a lot less. So we're just gonna go single leg position with this knee coming kind of driving up. Now in this one, what you're thinking about is the lever is right below her shoulder blade, right? So below her shoulder blade, she's gonna go full range of motion and she's going to look up on this one. So this is where literally her lever point is her shoulder blade. She's coming down and she's rotating around that. Her neck is in a normal neutral position and you're gonna look up. Boom, there we go. So for the single leg hip thrust, notice, tall spine, it moves all together, right? Different than the double leg, but feeling the glutes on that, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a ton. So I wanted to bring that up because it is quite different, okay? Meaning that like if you try to do that on a single leg, it's gonna be different. So make sure that you're shifting that, even if you load the bar, even if you load it with something else. Remember, the bottom of the shoulder blade is usually where you wanna have that pad, and that's your fulcrum where you're leaning over and then looking up. Okay, and then the last one here is the B stance. And the B stance is basically kind of like a hybrid between 2 legs and 1 leg because we're gonna be up in that toe up position, right? So in this one, we're gonna go back to that same form as far as looking forward. And remember that this foot, same thing. Imagine if there's a scale under her heel. I want it to show maybe 10%, 20% of weight max, because this leg is doing all the work. What this leg is doing is preventing her from rotating, right? So when we come back up, remember what we talked about, that tripod foot. We're putting into play heel, big toe, little toe, driving up and shortening it up, right? So really the majority of load is on this foot. And this is a great way to make sure that you're loading stuff. Now, she's doing a good job. Like Kelsey's doing a good job with keeping her knee aligned with her toes. A lot of people will do this, right? And you can see that's not aligned anymore. That's not gonna hit the glute the way that we want to hit it, right? So we wanna have that knee aligned with the toe. Even if it's a little turned out, we want it aligned. And then when she snaps up, boom, she's gonna get all glute. And like I said, form, great job on that. It's like, actually, I think we need to show another 5 different, no, it's like, but, just so they can see. But it's like little stuff like that. Like I said, whether the knee turns out and it's not tracking, whether you don't shorten up the spine, like those things make a huge difference in the amount of tension that you feel, right? And you can go from, like I said, same load, couple of coaching cues, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what's happening here, right? So make sure that when you guys are doing your hip thrusts, take those things into effect. Also, if you feel like you're having a tough time with it, here's another really, really good cue. Slow everything down, okay? Use less load and use 3 seconds down, 3 seconds up, 2 to 3 seconds squeeze. I promise you, because to get a pattern down, you know, they say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So you gotta do it slow first before you can do it faster and smoother, right? And don't be scared to take the load down, do it slower, trust me, like you'll feel it, it'll be hard. And then now you got the groove and now you can bump it back up again, okay? So that's your like 4 to 5 different tips on how you can improve your hip thrust, double leg, single leg, and B stance. Put it into play.